Congratulations! If you're watching this, you're probably getting a lot of interviews for your pharmacy residency, so that's awesome. But how do you book all of this? Hello everyone and welcome back to Happy Farm Life. My name is Sierra Richard. I am a pharmacist and a PGY1 pharmacy resident who wants to help you get the pharmacy residency of your dreams. This is another installment of my How to Get a Pharmacy Residency series, and I'm excited for you to be here because this means you're getting interviews. You're excited because you're getting acceptance letters, and sad because you're getting rejection letters. Fun fact, my first one was a rejection and it was very depressing, but here I am as a resident. It'll be okay. But I'm assuming if you're here, you've actually got accepted to some interviews. So here are some of my tips for scheduling interviews. Before we jump too far in, I do want to let you know that I applied all over the country and I ended up doing 7 interviews. So your situation may be a little bit different than mine if you're going to be more local, but I'm going to try to give tips for every situation that I can. So first up, which really works for no matter where you are at, is try to keep the locations close together. You don't always have full control over this, especially because their dates might fill up or you're only offered certain dates that don't really coincide with wherever you're going. But if you are traveling all over the place, at least try to stay in the same time zone. I had a flight that I had to go from the West Coast, and then my next interview was on the East Coast. And it was very difficult to make the time switch. I was like falling asleep during my interview, I felt like. Not really, but I was like exhausted by the end of it, more so than normal. So if you can stay in that same time zone, it's probably a good idea. Another tip for those of you who are flying is to wait to schedule your interviews until you've heard from at least most of your programs, or schedule with an airline that's going to be easy to move around. So example that happened with me, I started booking flights and then another interview request came in and I had to move all of my flights around because it ended up the only time that I could do it was in between 2 interviews. So instead of going all the way home, I ended up switching that flight to fly from one interview to another. So if that happens to you, you want to be able to switch the flights without the additional fees. So either plan for the additional fees or try to wait. If you can't wait, then do the insurance policy or whatever extra fees that the airline has up front so you can change things. Another tip or hack or whatever you want to call it that I did was, depending on the prices of the different flights that you may be taking, it may be worth it to open up a credit card. So I actually opened a credit card with Southwest Airlines because they had the cheapest flights, and so I was able to put all of that on there and get $200 off plus all of the points for that, and was able to pay for another flight with it. So if you don't have a travel credit card or are responsible with your credit cards, don't just get a credit card and go crazy and don't plan on paying it off. That's not good either. But it can be a way for you to save a little money in the long run, because I paid that off immediately and got the additional $200 off and the extra flight for later on. So keep that in mind if you're able to use the same airline. I'll leave a link down below to the credit card that I got so you guys can check it out and see if it works for you. No matter if you're flying or if you are not, Airbnb and VRBO are my first places I looked at staying. The reason being is a lot of the medical centers have either physicians or nurses or even pharmacy people who will rent out their rooms near the medical center, and so it's usually a pretty safe place to stay, not in all cases, but most of them, and they're pretty cheap because they know that people aren't staying there for very long. I will leave links to those websites that I used as well, so you guys can get a little bit discount if you've never used them before. Another awesome place to check is the hospital's concierge service. So believe it or not, a lot of these hospitals have deals with local hotels, even for interviewees. So a lot of times you might think about this for patients, but if you tell them they're interviewing there, oftentimes they'll give you the same or similar deals. So you can get way cheaper prices through these hospitals if you ask if their concierge service has any options. You may not have to ask the program for that necessarily. It's oftentimes found on the website for the hospital itself. So you can always type that in the search bar and see if that's an option for you. Once again, for our flyers, it's very, very important that you check how far exactly is the hospital from the airport / where you're staying. Because oftentimes I found that the hospital was just far enough away that the price for a Uber or a Lyft was going to be way more expensive. So I ended up renting a car for a lot of mine. If you have to do that, it's going to cost a lot of money, especially if you're under 25. So I have some hacks for that. I found out that both Hertz and Avis car companies, which I'll leave links down to them below as well, if you sign up for their rewards program, even if you're under 25, they will waive your under 25 fee. So I ended up paying, like, one of them, I paid like $23 a day for the car, which was going to be cheaper than the Uber ride was just to my hotel alone. So if you are going to be traveling long distances, especially, this may be a better option for you, and it gives you the opportunity to explore wherever you're going. So another tip, I highly recommend wherever you're going that you do take some time to look around the place, ask people where you're interviewing at, whether it's the residents or preceptors. If you have downtime at the end and you don't have another question for them, just ask them, be personable, what's some place that I have to see while I'm here? I have a few extra hours this evening, or what place should I go eat for dinner if they don't have a dinner set up for you already? Some of the times I asked that question and I ended up getting invited to go out with the residents and had a great time and got a better idea of the city than I would have otherwise, and just had a lot of fun. And then sometimes they just gave me really great recommendations of places to go and check out. And one of these places that you're interviewing may be your home next year. And so it's a great opportunity for you to see what the places are and what you might like and not like about the city that you're interviewing at. I'm going to show you some images on the screen as I talk about those things, but really, guys, you need to check out where you're going to be. Yes, it's just a year, but it is a year of your life. And so if you absolutely hate where you are outside of work, work is very difficult, you're not going to be happy. So try to check out some things. If you've never been in the area before, get those things off your bucket list. Actually, my mom ended up getting to come with me to one of them just because she wanted to go to the San Francisco Bay Area, and I had an interview out there, and we got to check a ton of things off of our bucket list and go see the Golden Gate Bridge together. So that's awesome. I stayed with one of my friends when I interviewed in Colorado, and it was great to see her. I had interviews on the beach, and beforehand I got up early and had to walk on the beach before I had to get on the plane. This is one of the few times that you're going to have time. Believe it or not, if you're going to be a resident, you're going to lose a lot of time. You're not going to be able to travel a whole lot. So this is really a great opportunity to see things you're never going to see before. So just explore. I highly recommend it. Okay, back to the car. Sometimes Uber and Lyft are cheaper. I highly recommend checking both of them if you're going to be Ubering or Lyfting to the hospital. Also, be sure you know where you're going and what address to put in, because sometimes they'll drop you off at clinics if you don't specify where you're supposed to be, and then you walk a lot. So try to figure out where you're supposed to be. And if you can, I recommend checking out where you're supposed to be the night before, whether you're driving in a Lyft or Uber or if you have your own car. It's just better to know where you're going. I know that's not always an option. I didn't have that option all the time. Like, one of my flights got delayed and I got in at 1 a.m. and my interview was at 7. Like, I just went to bed. But if you can, definitely do it. Yes, so check Uber and Lyft, and I'll leave links to both of those down below so you can guys get a discount if you've never signed up with both of them before. So it's very important to make a list of everything you're going to need for your interviews and then expect to forget something. So, fun story, during my second interview, I actually just drove to this one. So my first interview was where I had currently worked, and then my second interview was still in my state, so it was a couple-hour drive. I drove there and had packed my bag. And I also recommend taking all the stuff out of your suitcase the night before. Thankfully, I did, and realized that the only shoes I had were my Uggs, which I had worn because it had been snowing. And I was like, oh, darn, I only have Uggs for my interview tomorrow. So I got to wear my Uggs to Walmart in the morning to get flats to wear with my suit, and it was super embarrassing. I also brought the wrong pants, and they were like the wrong color completely for my suit, and I had to go buy new pants. Like, you're gonna forget something if you're doing several of these. Try to make a list. Hopefully it's nothing major, and get all your stuff out the night before so you realize it, so you have time to fix those things before your interview. Another thing I recommend before you go is to make a calendar of your interviews for your family and friends. I did this. It was like a word calendar, super simple to make. That way they could see where I was, what time I was in interviews, when my flights were, not only just to help everybody know, hey, don't call me at this time, but just keep coordinated where I am. And if anything were to happen to me, at least everybody would know where I am, whereas it would have been a little sketchy otherwise. For that time that you have on the plane, I highly, highly recommend bringing a book. I got asked several times what was the last book I read. Other things to bring are articles, journal articles, something that's interesting maybe to your program. Because I also got asked in almost every interview what was the most recent article I read and what did I learn from it. So it was nice to have articles, one, to keep up with things, and two, also fresh on my mind because I read it the night before on the plane. Other things you can do on the plane to take time other than a nice nap. You can definitely take this time to print hard copies of things about the program and just review the program again. Make sure you're not missing anything that you're going to want to talk about or ask about. Make your good list of questions and kind of plan ahead of time. That way, once you get there, you can just chill and relax and you've done all your prep work for your interview before you actually get to the location. All right, I know that was a little bit disjointed and there was a lot of things going on there, but I do want to let you know that we have a video coming out later this week. It is going to be interview tips with myself and my friend Kelsey Zakowskis, who is a PGY1 resident elsewhere. She applied to very different programs than me, so hopefully between the two of us we can answer some of your guys' questions. We have questions, but if you have any more, leave them down below and we will answer them in this video. And thank you all for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the other residency prep videos that I have coming up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Yeah.